Good Sunday afternoon, everyone. This is John with Pure Adrenaline Fantasy Sports. Along with me again, as always, is Sean. Sean, how are you this afternoon?
I'm good, John. How are you?
Good, doing well. And joining us from the West Coast, good morning, Jeremy. NFL Chaos with Jeremy. How are you today?
Good morning. Just getting up and getting ready for a great day for football.
Yeah, absolutely. We had two great games yesterday. Let's take an early look at the first game. We had the Bengals beating the Titans 19-16 on a last-second field goal. Sean, you predicted this earlier in the week, but any surprises from the game? I mean, I'm surprised Cincinnati won, but overall in the game.
I was more surprised for the fact that I expected the Titans to come out more running the ball than they did. They came out and wanted to keep throwing the ball, and you would think with Derrick Henry being back, mobilize, get the run going, then throw the ball. When you come out in the first play of the game and you throw an interception, it takes the energy of that home crowd right out of it, and then you're down, then you score, and then you go for the 2-point conversion, and pretty much that 2-point conversion was ultimately could have been a game-changing decision because if they kicked that extra point, they could have forced the Bengals' hand to have to do something later in the game. But I'm not shocked that the Bengals won. With Joe Burrow, 14 months removed from the ACL injury that he had, to go from last year, I think they were 4-11-1 to this year being in the Afc Championship, it kind of shows that if you build the right team around someone, that the future is bright. And everyone said when they took Jamar Chase in the first round that it was a kind of a dumb decision. And I think it's ultimately paid into them being this far with Jamar with Joe Burrow.
Yeah, agreed. Jeremy, your thoughts on the Cincinnati-Tennessee game?
Yeah, it's certainly not a surprise. We knew it was going to be a dogfight. We talked about it. We wasn't 100% sure either way. Thought Tennessee at home would have the advantage. I agree with Sean. It's very confusing when a team doesn't stick to what got them somewhere. Mm-hmm. It's almost like they're outthinking themselves. It's like trying to support whatever the thinking was. Oh, they're going to be ready for that. Whatever the thinking was, it's always a surprise when, to me, you should always stick to your strength, right? Let them stop your strongest attack. And if they do, then you come up and you have a backup plan and things that you can try to open it up. But to open up the game like that and to not pound the ball and try to establish the run and control the game that way, didn't make a lot of sense to me. I think the Colts made the same mistake throughout the season. There were a lot of games where the same thing. It was like, what are they doing? Why aren't they sticking to what got them there? What makes them such a strong and special team? And then it just came down to that. And I also believe with 2-point conversions, you have to do more than just run right up the middle. Like you have to have plays ready for that. Then just run it right up the gut and just throw the dice like that. Like, come on, you could design plays, especially 1 yard away, that are a little bit more creative than what they tried. And then with all that said, they still were very much in it, and it came down to the final wire, and what happened, right? So now we have a situation. Now we have a very exciting situation with Cincinnati. I don't think anybody could be upset or hate Cincinnati Bengals and not just be excited for a team that has this great opportunity.
Yeah, and I agree with you with the 4th and 1. I think that was kind of the momentum changer that the Bengals needed. Kind of like you said, you had how many creative plays up your sleeve for a 4th and 1, and you hike the ball and you turn around for 5 yards. You have to figure Henry was laying back 5 yards until he got enough momentum going forward. You got to go 6 yards forward when you went 5 yards back on a 4th and 1. I think when you do stuff like that, it kind of you're not going to get enough forward momentum going to push your pile that far with the defensive tackles nowadays, especially on the Bengals. So I think that was the game changer the Bengals needed because up until that point, the Titans had all the momentum going their way, and it looked like the Titans took the swing and we're going to go back to winning that game.
Yeah, agreed. Now the Titans were able to sack Burrow 9 times. But I, as a fan, if I was a fan of either of these two teams, I would take the 3 interceptions over the 9 sacks.
Yeah, that game was just all defense oriented, and it proved it early. I mean, the turnovers right off the bat, the sacks, the lack of third down conversions, and the lack of throwing the ball away. I think I texted you during the game, John, and I was like, "Why are people not throwing the ball away? You're just running backwards." And I'm like, "This makes no sense."
Yeah, agreed. Like you said, Mixon had a big day, 105 total yards and a touchdown. Chase with 5 catches for 109 yards, and Higgins with 7 catches for 96 yards. Burrow, 348 total yards, no touchdowns, and 1 pick. But yeah, they're moving on to the AFC Championship game for the first time since the 1988 season. And Jeremy, do you know who they played in the AFC Championship game that year?
And what was the season? I'm sorry.
88. It was Cincinnati and somebody else in the
88.
AFC.
It wasn't our Jets.
Nope.
I know that. Man, I just remember that they make it to the Super Bowl and lose to the Niners with the whole John Taylor pass and everything.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah. But it's interesting. I don't remember who they beat to get there, though.
They beat the Buffalo Bills.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So we could get a rematch of that game. Guys, anything else on that game before we dive into Green Bay and San Francisco from last night?
No.
So let's see. We did have a comment here. This is last night we learned that ivermectin is not a performance-enhancing drug, and Aaron Rodgers has the antibodies to prevent getting the Super Bowl trophy. Also, the damn snowflake caused them to lose too. I don't think the snow really caused anything with the Packers on offense there. Before we look into it, just some stats from last night's game. Aaron Jones had 170 total yards, and Devontae Adams had 9 catches for 90 yards. The rest of the team had 32 total yards.
Yeah.
Before we jump into special teams, go ahead, Sean.
I just, like I said to you off before we went live, I think it had a lot to do in the first half or the third. I think it was early third quarter. They lost A.J. Dillon. I think that kind of hurt them because you have a big body running back, and then you have Aaron Jones behind him for when you have those short conversions. And then to run Aaron Jones on those short conversions, it's not going to really play in your favor. And the Niners, starting in the third quarter, kind of did what I thought they were going to do early in the game. They double-teamed with 2 people on Devontae Adams and left everyone else individual coverage, which a lot of teams have done that with Cooper Kupp. The Niners did that in Week 18 with Cooper Kupp. They did it last week with CeeDee Lamb, and then they did it this week with Devontae Adams. And all 3 of those games, they only resulted in 1 touchdown with all 3 of those guys combined. So I think that helps. And I think looking forward to possible next week's matchup, I think the Niners will end up using that again in their favor, because if you at least put 2 guys and force the ball somewhere else, it gives you a chance to do a difference in game-changing plays.
Yeah, Jeremy, your thoughts on the game?
Yeah, I've been pretty high on the Niners since their defense, midseason started getting healthy. And I always say when you have, and I'll say it a million, George Kittle and you have Deebo Samuel with the things they're capable of doing, and that defense healthy and playing well, just you can't overlook them. People wanted to just say, "Oh, it's Lambeau Field, they can't lose," but we've seen it before. We saw Atlanta win in Lambeau Field. We saw the Giants do it. Teams have come through there, and that's been the road to the Super Bowl for other teams too, not just the Packers. So again, people just they're looking at record, and you're forgetting you got to look at what the Niners were the second half of the year when healthy, and that's what they were coming into this game. They were coming to this game much healthier, and they were a much more dangerous team than I think people were giving them credit for being. This is very similar to the team that went to the Super Bowl a couple of years ago, and they're dangerous. and whichever team's going to play them next week better take it very, very seriously.
I look at the Bengals and I look at the Niners, and I think both teams kind of had that energy in their with their fan base and with the team, and it's why not us kind of thing, and playing the underdog and nothing to lose sort of thing. Like do the trick plays, do what you have to do to try to stop them. I mean, look at the Niners last week. They went out, punched the Cowboys in the mouth at home, and pretty much played with the lead the whole game. This week, they went out, they played defense. The offense was asleep the whole first half. The defense came alive, kept them in that game, and ultimately the defense is what won them the game. And they kept Aaron Rodgers from crossing midfield the whole second half. I mean, where do you say that Green Bay and Aaron Rodgers has, I think it was 47 or 48 yards in the whole second half?
Yeah.
I mean, you never hear of that kind of stuff, and it's just, I think the Niners and the Bengals going into next week's championship matchups, whoever they play, they're going to do the same thing they did the past 2 weeks, coming out and have that energy right off the bat and kind of play with why not us momentum and the energy level.
Yeah, and especially San Francisco. Look at their even week 18, they went into LA and beat the Rams in a must win. Then go to Dallas and beat Dallas, and then go to Lambeau and beat Green Bay.
Yeah, and you figure they were down 17-0 against the Rams. They led the whole game against the Cowboys, and they were down 7-0, and then it was 10-3 at one point in this game against the Packers last night. So even when they're trailing, the defense is still going after it. And the only thing I think the Niners fans are worried about is Debo banged up and is Kittle banged up, and how good is Trent Williams on your left tackle position, because those three limping are pretty much your keys to offense.
Yeah, agreed. Jeremy, your takeaways from last night's game?
I think we may have seen Aaron Rodgers' last game as a Packer, although I'm not 100% sure. He did say some things to always throw something in there to make us think, well, maybe. He talked about his relationship with the GM getting a lot better, but then he commented about having no interest in being part of a rebuild,
right?
Which was how this whole thing started with the Jordan Love thing that pissed him off originally. That it just keeps coming down to that. It's like, give me all to win a Super Bowl. But anyway, I think that, a lot of people were judging him. He's not even a top 10 in history. He's overrated. He's this and that because of last night's game. And I think that they're not looking at the conditions and the defense he was going up against it with. And I think it's disrespectful to the 49ers and the way they play defense. Yeah. They played good old fashioned NFC, just hardcore, physical stuff you defense. And, it's like to sit there and say to blame a game or look at a game as being about one player. It's just, to me, such a mistake that fans make. It's a team sport. And, quarterback is obviously a pivotal and critical position, but they need the other 10 guys on the field as well. Like everything, it's a unit. You win together, you lose together. And I just think that they were not able to they weren't ready for San Francisco's defense. They just simply were not in sync. They were thrown off. It's just credit to San Francisco for stopping a very dangerous offense.
Yeah. And Green Bay's special teams completely fell apart last night.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I just think the Niners defense kept them in the game close enough and kept it one score and gave the offense a chance to put one drive together and either take the lead or tie the game up for most of the game. And when they couldn't do it, the defense stepped up and bull rushed the punter and changed the momentum of that game. And I think at that point, when they scored that touchdown, it was pretty much Aaron Rodgers had no energy, no momentum going, and all the Niners had was the silence of the crowd. And from that point on, it was stopped them Packers, what they did within a minute and a half, I think, and turned it around and went on to win the game.
Yeah, a couple key plays last night. Jimmy G throws that pick. I believe it was inside the 10-yard line. Green Bay marches down, going for a field goal. San Francisco blocks the field goal attempt to end the half. And then to start the second half, they get the big kickoff return from Deebo Samuel and end up getting a field goal out of it and to keep it a game. I mean, it was close all along, but you felt like Green Bay was in control. I did, at least, until San Francisco got that field goal to make it 7-3. And then, of course, they blocked that punt and returned it for a touchdown to tie it. Showing your thoughts on either San Francisco special teams or Green Bay special teams.
I think the special teams had a lot to play of it, but I also look at the defense for the Packers. They missed probably 3, maybe 4 interceptions that could have been pick sixes. The simple lob passes that Jimmy G was throwing to some of those receivers. I know the one time the receiver could have had a pick six, he ran on the outside of the guy just looking to tackle him instead of going for the ball. And you figure the interception before half, that was the stop of points. And then when they got that fumble recovery in the first quarter and then Mercedes Lewis fumbled it right back, it's like you had all the opportunities to turn turnovers or get turnovers into points, and they just couldn't step up. I mean, when you keep a team around, you're destined for them to come back and do something, and that's exactly what the Niners did last night. I mean, they fought for everything they had, and you figure with 4 minutes and 45 seconds to go until that punt gets blocked, the Packers had full control of that game, and it was going to be a 10-3 win. And if it wasn't for that punt block, I mean, we're looking at Aaron Rodgers hosting the NFC Championship, but the special teams just was a letdown.
Yep, agreed. Jeremy, your thoughts on special teams on either side?
Yeah, I mean, it was that's just another thing that people forget about, right? And how important it could be and how critical it could be. I mean, that block punt and touchdown was everything. I mean, it just totally changed everything about that game. You know, he punts the ball. It's like I was thinking, and I was actually talking to my wife and trying to explain to her, based on the way this game is going, sometimes a 49-42 lead in a game in a shootout is a much smaller 7-point differential than when it's 10-3 in those conditions, the way that game was going. So I was saying, this is a big 7 points. It's like, this is a bigger lead than it looks like. Yes, it could all change in one play, but it's a critical situation for the Niners because they haven't been able to put up a touchdown. So that lead is really big. It's almost like a soccer league, you know, like a 1-goal soccer league. It's bigger than it normally would be. And the special teams is what turned that around, you know, and it was like the critical thing about that game. And, you know, usually it's the offense, the defense. And I mean, you can't take anything away from the defense, but if you were to say MVP out of the 3, special teams, offense, defense, you have to give the MVP all game to the special teams. You know, without question. So just unbelievable.
Yeah, and heading into the offseason, it'll be interesting to see what Green Bay does here. Currently, I checked this morning. They are $40 million over the cap. I know they can save some of that if they want to get trade or Rodgers retires for some reason. They could save almost half of that. But Adams is a free agent, so they might go into full rebuild mode if Rodgers decides he wants to leave.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I'm saying I actually finished doing a video that you saw this morning about because of their salary cap situation and that they might go into a rebuild. And I did a video called "Should the Jets Go for Kevin King, their cornerback, who had a very good year?" He said he had almost a 92 PFF rating, which is elite. And I think that's what the casualties are going to be, you know, because they're $46 million. I mean, they lose Aaron, but they still have no cap space, and they're going to have to make that decision, and that's going to let some good players hit the market, you know, that they're not going to be able to compete for and sign.
Right.
And after the year he had, I think that's a cornerback that's looking at a $12 million multi-year contract at least.
It's crazy you think about it. Aaron Rodgers always said that the defense was the issue and why they couldn't win NFC Championship games. And the year that they had the a great defense and was keeping them in games, the offense was a dud. So, I mean, I know Packer fans are probably pretty much saying they want Aaron Rodgers gone, and at this point, it's does he retire or does he go somewhere else and would demand a trade and plays his last year of his contract elsewhere? And with Devontae Adams being a free agent, I think wherever Aaron Rodgers does end up, if he goes to another team, I think Devontae Adams ends up there with probably a 1-year deal as well. I think that he'll find somewhere to go. I mean, I know Chris Godwin's a free agent down in Tampa Bay. I mean, can you imagine Devontae Adams getting passes thrown to him by Tom Brady?
Right. Yeah.
Or
Crazy.
imagine Rodgers and Devontae go to Denver.
Yeah. I mean, or I said to John, I said, Jimmy G's being out at quarterback. Could the Niners say, I want to trade for Aaron Rodgers and go sign Devontae Adams? And they build a super team out there with their offense being that great and their defense even being better.
And I just looked it up. If he did want to go to San Francisco, San Francisco is just about $11 million under the cap, but getting rid of Jimmy G will open up $26 million. So, I mean, they'll definitely have room for Rodgers if he wants to go to San Francisco. I believe he's from out there.
So, yep, he grew up a diehard Niners fan.
So they could make some moves to free up some more space if they wanted to. If Adams did want to go with them. I mean, I'd have to look at all the moves they can make, but yeah, that'd be crazy.
I'm sure there's a chance that they could make the cap room space to free up enough room for, and I'm sure people would take a pay cut if they could say, hey, if we get Aaron Rodgers here and Devontae Adams, what would you do?
Right. Agreed.
And would you see any chance of Rodgers considering the New York Giants?
No.
I don't think so. No.
I think the only teams that have a chance to get Aaron Rodgers would be either Pittsburgh, Denver, or the Niners if he doesn't retire. And I think retirement might even be a good possibility. I mean, Tom Brady's outlasting all these quarterbacks that you thought would be better than him, and he just can't. He doesn't seem to want to retire himself.
Jeremy, how about Aaron Rodgers coming to the Jets?
Not interested. Only because we're not ready anyway. And then I like the plan the Jets are on. We got to see this through. Not
right.
It's a guarantee or anything, but they got to see this plan through. So it's not that it's not interested. It wouldn't be enticing, exciting, but it's not something that he would do, and it's not something I think the Jets are even considering doing. So I think they believe they have their guy. But one team you didn't mention, Sean, I'm curious. What do you think about? Because I don't know about cap situation perfectly or that kind of thing. But what do you think about the Saints going after Aaron Rodgers?
They're $70 million in cap space debt.
Oh wow!
Yeah, they're like $74 million over the cap. So
right.
Yeah, that team is going to be a full 100% rebuild. I think. I wouldn't be shocked if Michael Thomas doesn't get moved, Taysom Hill doesn't get moved. I wouldn't be shocked if a lot of players like Cam Jordan, Lattimore, Williams, I think a lot of players that played for the Saints right now are probably going to be looking for a new home next year because I think there's just going to be a lot of movement.
That's the kind of thing that excites me, John, about when you say Jets, when you name a team like that that's going to be dumping that kind of talent. That's when I start to open my eyes and think, what can we pick up from that?
Right, because I just looked at it right now. The Jets have $48.5 million in cap space, but I know they're going to be cutting some players as well. So yeah, I mean the Jets are going to have about $60+ million in cap space. So it's going to be an interesting offseason.
And plenty of draft picks.
Yeah, I wouldn't even if they wanted to trade a draft pick. I wouldn't trade either of the two first, not completely. We'd have to get some kind of draft capital back in return for trading a first round pick.
Well, I certainly wouldn't expect them to if they were going to trade, because there's a lot of rumors about them trading the 10th pick. Mm-hmm. I would be shocked. I'm extremely. I'm thinking it's highly and extremely unlikely that they would trade that 10th pick until they've made until the draft day actually occurs and they see who they get with the 4th pick.
Right.
So until they know who they have with that 4th pick, unless somebody just makes an offer they absolutely couldn't refuse, I don't see them parting with that pick. But on draft day, depending on who they get with that 4th pick and depending what the offer was, I just don't see anybody making an offer sweet enough, because who would they be trading up to get for the 10th pick? Like, who's the buyer? Who's the team?
Right. There's no quarterback this year worth trading up for.
Right. I think a lot of teams this year that are in the cap space debt, I think are going to be trading a lot of players for draft picks. So I wouldn't be shocked if the Jets don't get a phone call for the pick for someone that could be that's paid a little too much, that a team needs to get young players and get draft picks. So, I mean, I think that's where a lot of this year is going to be. Kind of like John said, there's not a lot of great players in this draft. I think this is kind of one of those, is there anyone going to be good coming out of this draft sort of thing. So I think that'll be what's interesting to see what happens with this draft, because it's kind of one of those boring kind of picks, boring kind of drafts where not many people are talking about who this guy could be or this guy could be. It's kind of one of those, there's not many players.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting. But getting a little off topic here, let's get back to the games today. The first game is the Rams and Buccaneers. Sean, any injury news that you've seen?
I know the Jones is out and Perryman's out for the Bucks on offense, and then I know Pierre-Paul, their 2 offensive linemen, Jensen and Wirfs, and then there was another player or 2, I think, that were questionable to play today. For the Rams side, I think they have 2 players that are on defense that are their safeties are out, and I know their offensive lineman's out, Whitworth. So other than that, I think it's pretty much going to be a straightforward kind of game. You're going to have your main guys going at it, and I think whoever has the best performance all around today, kind of like the Niners, you kind of perform all the way around and pull up the win.
Yeah, Jeremy, your thoughts looking at this game?
Man, it's been so hard to predict these games, hasn't it? And this one's really, really tough, because on one hand you got Brady, which is, it's just impossible sometimes to go against him. But I have such a good feeling with the Rams. The Rams are having feels like a little bit of a magical season. So I think it's going to really come down to the wire. It's going to be another one of these games. It's going to be an amazing game to watch. And believe it or not, if you said, Jeremy, this game's going to be a blowout, who's going to blow out who? I would say it's more likely the Rams blow out Tampa than Tampa blow out the Rams.
Agreed. I agree with that.
Yeah, I would see it's more like the Saints when they came in and crushed, Tampa, like something like that happened. Then I don't see I don't see the Rams losing by significant points. They're going to lose a heartbreaker. Most likely, if they win, they're going to break Tampa's heart. It's going to be one of those kind of games. I just know who I'm pulling for, and if you're wondering, this should probably give it away.
Yeah,
I see.
Unsponsored, everyone. Unsponsored.
Yeah.
No, I honestly mean, regardless, whoever wins this game is hosting the NFC Championship game next Sunday night against the Niners. But I mean, if the Rams were to win, they could host not only the NFC Championship, but they could also host the Super Bowl in back-to-back or 2 out of 3 weeks because of the Pro Bowl and being in between. But I think it's going to come down to is Matt Stafford has to hold up on the pressure. I mean, first time being this far in the playoffs, first career win last week. He's got to not come out and have a dud. He's got to just get moving and get going and keep the Bucs defense on its heels. Don't overfeed Cooper Kupp, obviously, because then they're going to know where you're going with the ball. But I think they also have to get the running game going as well. And I think if they can do not only get the running game going, but get the passing going and get the Bucs defense kind of questioning themselves, I think then the Rams could honestly upset the Bucs today at home.
Yeah, I do have I like the Rams winning this game. I look back on the matchup history. The Rams have actually won 7 of the last 8 matchups, including the last 4 played in Tampa Bay, and they won earlier this year, 34-24.
Yeah, I think the Rams are gonna. I think the Rams win this one, but I think it's a close matchup. I think they win by like 3 to 4 points only. I don't think it'll be a high scoring game like they're predicting. I think honestly it could be a 17-14 game just because both defenses are playing pretty good.
Jeremy, your thoughts?
Yeah, I definitely think that it seems like playoffs is more about defense. We see that a lot. And so I agree that it could be very low scoring. I think that the Rams are going to squeak it out. And I was telling, I think I said it here or somewhere, I said, I hope this is the furthest that Tom Brady ever gets again to the Super Bowl. Like, this is the end. Like, no more NFC or AFC Championship games. Like, no matter where he ends up, if he stays with his career, no more championship games. He never makes it again. That this is the end of the line. That the LA Rams slam the door on him and end it, and that he doesn't on this round ever again in his career.
Yeah, I think that was during the Thursday night stream. You joined me that night. I think it was then, and I actually think you might be right because there are reports coming out this morning that he's going to take some time after the season to think about what he's doing. So, I mean, if he does lose, I wonder if he's kind of thinking the same thing, that this might have been it. Sean, what do you think?
Can you imagine the NFC or the NFL without Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady possibly? Because I think every team in the NFC would probably breathe very light tonight and be like, all right, well, our time is now because you got 2 of the best quarterbacks in the NFC side of the ball possibly out after this year. So I said that Tom Brady, I think, does retire this year, but I don't think it's likely. I think that if he wins today and can get a chance at another Super Bowl, I think he knows that in his head he still has it. But if they come out today and the Rams light him up, knowing that he had the most touchdowns this year thrown. So can he still do it? Yes. Does he still want to do it and prove it? No. I mean, he doesn't have to prove anything at this point. It's Tom Brady. He's been to 10 Super Bowls and won 7.
Right.
So what else does he have to prove? Could he retire next week if they lose this week or win this week and lose next week? Could he retire and be done? Yeah. Is he still going to go down as one of the greatest players ever? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I think that I don't think he would want to retire with the possibility that he still has it in him to win another Super Bowl. And I think he still has another year in him, honestly. I think it comes down to what kind of results end up this year. I think if he can come back and play another year, I think he will to possibly go for another Super Bowl run.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, agreed. We have Peo time chiming in. Thanks for watching, Peo. I did invite him. He said he couldn't make it, but just running in quick. But like what you all are saying, glad you got the Reese's Cups ready. So, I'll be watching his live stream. Jeremy, will you and your brother do some live streams? Will you guys be doing either of the 2 games today?
We're doing the Chiefs Bills.
The Chiefs Bills. Good. So we'll tune into that. Guys, for Peo or Jeremy's channels, I do have the links down below, so check them out today during their live streams. But guys, anything else on the Rams Bucks before we move over to Bills Chiefs?
For Peo's sake, I hope the time moves pretty quickly because I know he's already wanting to run a marathon, and the marathon's not wanting to run with him.
Right. Right. That is. I remember back when in 10 and 11 when the Jets were making their deep runs. It was the wait was just horrible.
Yeah, I remember it was 2017 or 2018 when the Vikings went to the NFC Championship and I had to wait till 8:30 for the kickoff on a Saturday night. And I was like, looking at the time, it's like, damn, only 10 minutes went by. It felt like 3 hours. And
Right.
it's like, then it's over within minutes, and you're like, well, there went that.
Yep. So one more game to end the weekend. We got the Bills Chiefs. Looks like when I first looked at the weather, it looks like it was going to be in the upper 30s and nice. But Sean was telling me there's a chance of some rain or some snow today. So they did play each other in Week 5 with Buffalo winning that game 38-20. But Kansas City won the AFC Championship game last year against the Bills, and Kansas City has actually won 5 of the last 7 matchups. So, guys, your thoughts on this one?
I think I think it's a different Chiefs team that the Bills played in Week 5. The defense is way different, and the offense is way different now. But the Bills have also improved. But I think the end result, the Chiefs' home crowd in a playoff game is going to be, the atmosphere is going to be really loud there. And I wouldn't be shocked if this game doesn't end kind of like the Week 5 game, but reverse, where the Chiefs win by 10 points and they force Josh Allen to have a couple of turnovers, where in Week 5 they forced Mahomes to have a lot of turnovers. But also in that Week 5 game, I think there was 2 catches that should have been were tipped, and they turned into, I think, a pick 6 and a touchdown drive that was close for the Bills. So I think today, though, the Chiefs redeem themselves and they take care of the Bills again and host the Bengals next week.
Which would be a good matchup. Jeremy, your thoughts on Bills Chiefs?
Yeah, just to me, it's like a prove it kind of thing. Like I said it on Thursday, it's like until the Bills can really prove it, I'm not going to just suddenly go against the Chiefs, especially the way they came on the second half of the season. A lot of people talk about how the Bills almost pulled it off last year, and they forget about the fact that the Chiefs were down to their backup quarterback and lost Mahomes, which was a big part of that. They weren't really, they were keeping, I'm not saying they weren't keeping it close, but it wasn't really, the game wasn't like as scary for Kansas City until Mahomes obviously went out. Then a lot of people leave that little fact out. And that the Chiefs managed to still hold on and win that game without Mahomes. So
yeah,
they got a championship level quality coach. Andy Reid is no joke. He's like one of those coaches that will has stamped his name in history. As a great coach. So the only thing that's tempting about the Bills, or makes me think, oh, the Bills might do it, is obviously, you just look every year for that team that creates that snowball to avalanche, right? That team that looks dominant and just kicks it into gear right at the right moment. And there is that little bit of a question. Is that what we're seeing when we saw what the Bills did to New England last week? Is that the Bills establishing themselves as the best team in the NFL, and that they're just going to roll on to the Super Bowl and dominate people? I'm not, I think Kansas City's, again, I'm taking Kansas City, but that is in the back of my mind. Like, how did I not see that happening? Because when I grew up in the 80s, that's how it kind of happened. A team just kind of went on a roll and would just dominate the playoffs and win. We saw the Bears do it. We saw the Giants do it. We saw the Niners do it. Dallas used to do it. They used to flip the switch, and then they would just roll through. So to me, it's still very interesting because I know that the Bills have the talent, and they're so dangerous that they can easily win that game. And it's not, how did they do that? Like, in our minds, you can definitely imagine it with the talent they have on that team. But again, I go with the Chiefs only because to me, it's like, until you prove it to me, I'm not riding on your train. I'm not buying into you. And the Chiefs have proven it already, that they can win games like this.
I look at it this way. Yeah, the Bills, they did rout the Patriots last week, but it took them all game. The Chiefs put 5 touchdowns on the board in a 10-minute span in the second to third quarter. So, against a pretty decent, not bad, but decent Steelers defense. So just think about it. Against the Steelers last week, how many weird plays did the Chiefs call where Travis Kelce's at quarterback, they're wildcatting this player, they're doing this. Damian Williams is the quarterback, so it's like I think the Chiefs more or less last week were just kind of like not say testing waters, but kind of having fun with it and seeing what could work. And I mean, I think with the Bills, they got it. I want to see them win a big game before I can sit there and say that they're the real deal. They had a chance this year they beat the Chiefs at home, which was great. But last year they lost the AFC Championship there. They could have beat the Bucs in Tampa Bay. They pretty much threw a dud up all game long until the fourth quarter with a few minutes to go. Mm-hmm. They lost the Jaguars this year. So it's like kind of want to see if they can show up in a big name, big game when it matters. I know last week they had the home crowd with them, but they were also playing a Patriots team that everyone kind of knew the writing was on the wall. It wasn't great. They were kind of there because they were there because of luck. So I want to see what kind of team shows up. Do the Chiefs come out tonight and punch the Bills right in the mouth, kind of say, all right, well, here's our game plan. Can you keep up with it? So I just think the Chiefs know the situation. This is what I think the third or fourth time in a 5-year span that the Chiefs have been in the AFC Championship game match almost, or have been or lost before in the divisional. So Mahomes knows what it takes to get there and have been in 2 Super Bowls. Mm-hmm. Can the Bills with Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs step up and do that as well and show that, hey, we're here too in the AFC. We're here to stay for years to come. Because if the Chiefs were to win this game, I think the Bills have a lot of thinking to do on their side of the ball. What is it going to take for us to be able to come in Kansas City knowing every year the AFC could run through them? What is it going to take for us to have to win this game to get to a Super Bowl?
Right, yeah. Man, excuse me. All right, guys. We're getting close to quarter to 1. We got to wait till 3:00 for the games today. But let's, Sean. Are you sticking with your predictions for these 2 games?
Absolutely.
Rams and Rams and Chiefs.
Rams
right?
and Chiefs. Yeah, I'm sticking with them. I'm big on Matt Stafford. I've been since the beginning of the year. I've been pretty much his whole career. I've liked watching him as a quarterback. I think they get a Week 18 rematch there with the Rams having a chance to beat the Niners in Week 18. They have a chance, I think, this year to beat them to go to the NFC side for the Super Bowl. And I think the Chiefs win, and they get the, Week 17 rematch that cost the Chiefs at the 1 seed for the Bengals. So I think it's going to be a rematch and on both sides of the ball for the AFC and NFC Championship. And I think that that's how it's going to go because I think that Matt Stafford and the Rams have more momentum going because of what they did with Kyler Murray last week with how they stopped them. The offense moved the ball a lot, the defense. They got the running game going with Cam Akers back. And the Chiefs, obviously, they were just getting tuned up with the Steelers. So I think both teams come out and they're fired up and get moving.
Yeah. Jeremy, your official picks for today's games.
Yeah, I'm with Sean. It's like Rams, Chiefs. I'm hoping that it ends up being 2 great games. As you know, because I don't have to worry about the nerves. As a fan, I get to sit back and enjoy. And I love the drama. I love when it comes down to those minutes and all the emotions are on the line. And hopefully that's what we're going to get. Hopefully we're going to get 2 great games. No blowouts on, in either of them. I want to be able to enjoy the fourth quarter in both games, especially the Chiefs Bills. It's good for my watch party if we have a tight, exciting game. So hopefully it will be.
Yeah, at the beginning of the playoffs, I picked the Rams Bills, so I'm hoping for those teams to win today. But I agree. I just hope they're good games. Yesterday we had 2 great games, even though they were low scoring. They were at the end they were exciting. It's the playoffs, so each play absolutely means something. Sorry about that, Sean. What were you going to say?
I think that we're in the possibility to having possibly 4 games come down to it, all coming down to a last second, either field goal or a stop to win the game. I mean, you had 2 yesterday, one with a rookie kicker and one that's been in the league for, I think, 12 or 13 years with Robbie Gould.
Mm-hmm.
And they both didn't know what would come out of it. But I mean, McPherson kicked, I think, 5 field goals or 4 field goals yesterday. Robbie Gould having the game winner in the snow.
Mm-hmm.
And then today you have the possibility that all the kickers could be coming into play. I mean, we never sat here and said that a game could come down to winning or losing a game by a field goal, but it proved that yesterday, if the right chance is thrown at you with either an interception or a turnover, a field goal could be what it takes to win the games nowadays, and that could take the momentum for you to win to get to the Super Bowl. And I think that's what comes down to it today, is playing not only offense, but playing all around defense and playing all around special teams. You got to play all sides of the ball.
Yeah, agreed. And in the post game yesterday for the Bengals, Burrow said, talking to McPherson on the sideline before the kick, he said McPherson said to him, "Looks like we're going to the AFC Championship game." I mean, he's a rookie. I mean, that's confidence. You got to have confidence in yourself always. But man,
and hey, the Bengals drafted up in the 5th round to take McPherson.
Yeah,
they drafted a kicker in the 5th round, and that guy has won 4 games for them, including yesterday's game this year on a kick. And he also tied up 2 other games to go to overtime this year.
Wow.
So it's crazy to think that the guy, it just got nerves of steel that he doesn't break under nerves.
Yeah. So, guys, let's we did have our first GM hiring. It looks like the Giants are hiring Joe Shane from the Buffalo Bills. He was their assistant GM. It'll be interesting to see which way they go with their head coach now. See if he brings somebody over like Dable, or I know some Giant fans want Flores. If your team's looking for a head coach, everybody should be interviewing Flores. But and then the Ravens get rid of defensive coordinator Wink Martindale, and Pittsburgh's defensive coordinator retired. The Martindale firing surprised me. Sean, how about you?
Not really me, because, I mean, the defense was a letdown pretty much all year. I just think that it was shocking that it took this long for a coach to get fired after the season.
So, yeah, I wonder if something happened, like they were in a meeting and something happened and they said, you know what, we'll just part ways then. Your Vikings are still looking for both a GM and a head coach. Any news coming out of there?
No, I mean, they've been interviewing so many people that they're not really sure.
Yeah. Jeremy, your thoughts on our team's not looking for a GM or a head coach, but your thoughts on the guys that are still available and where they might end up?
To me, the interesting hot story is, where is Brian Flores going to end up? Mm-hmm. That to me is the hot story, and who's going to land them. I think the Giants made an interesting selection in GM and it might actually speak to what their plans might be with Daniel Jones, because they just took a GM who just spent the past year, past little handful of years rebuilding the Bills, right? Mm-hmm. Assisting the rebuild of the Bills. And what did that entail? That entailed taking a quarterback and developing a young quarterback. So it might spell the end for Daniel Jones, and the Giants suddenly might be looking at drafting a quarterback, not the best year for it, but maybe they get one in the 2nd round. I don't know, but it looks, it looks interesting, because you got to look at the guy they hire, and that kind of gives, and you think, what's that guy's mindset? He didn't come into Buffalo and take a 4-year guy and build around that. He came and he started from scratch. Doesn't mean he doesn't wait a year to get the quarterback. Doesn't mean he doesn't do a fill-in year, wait for the better year, and then build around. But I think it's an interesting, smart hire, because it's a guy who just came from an environment that built a very strong young team right now that's very relevant in the Bills. So if he's going to come with that philosophy and say, let's do it that way, he's not starting from scratch. The Giants have a lot of skill position players. There's talent there spread around. They just need to get a quarterback and build the offensive line, and suddenly they could become a very dangerous team.
Yeah, and speaking of Brian Flores, I think wherever Deshaun Watson kind of goes, I think is where he's going to end up. So I think if whoever he gets hired by, I think he said in Miami that's who he's wanted.
Mm-hmm.
So I think if wherever he goes, he's going to go somewhere that needs a quarterback more and can get Deshaun Watson there. He publicly always said that he didn't want them to draft Tua, that he wanted Justin Herbert. And, I mean, look at their careers. Justin Herbert's had the breakout career over Tua. And I think that a good possibility is that he goes to Houston and he can get Deshaun Watson to want to stay there. But it's hard to say because I don't know if Deshaun Watson really wants to be in Houston in general. And I don't know if the fan base would want him back. But I think wherever Flores goes, I think Watson follows shortly after.
Yeah, agreed. I agree on that take. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see if there'll still be some kind of league because the team disciplined them last year, right? And it wasn't the league.
No, they just didn't start him or activate him all year.
Oh, okay.
They didn't punish him, and I don't know with the NFL. I don't really know what's going to come about that because I haven't heard anything about it. I haven't heard anything taking course or interviews happening or this happening or that happening. It's kind of been like one of those, it's silence sort of thing, like hush, hush, what's going on. So I don't know. I mean, Brian Flores could even end up maybe in with not a rookie quarterback, but a second-year guy in Chicago with Justin Fields.
Mm-hmm.
He could end up there. He could go out and be a good candidate for Denver even, and rebuilding Denver and getting Deshaun Watson maybe out there. So I think there's a lot of good places that he could go and rebuild, but I don't know if you want to get hired as a coach knowing, hey, it's a rebuild process.
Right. Yeah. Jeremy, any thoughts on the Deshaun Watson situation?
It's interesting because we don't even know when he's going to play. And it's so hard for a team because it's like with that uncertainty, like how much are you going to give up for a guy and you don't know what the situation is going to be. Like he's already missed a year. How far into the next year is this going to go? What's the outcome of it going to, how's it all going to resolve? And what's the outcome going to be? Does he resume his career after that normally? Or are there going to be other things that come? There's so much, but he's such a talent that he can overcome all of that, right? When you're such a special talent at that position, I mean, we've seen teams give multiple chances to like Antonio Brown and Josh Gordon and guys who kept, making these choices that were hurting them. And when you think about his talent and the position he plays, there's certainly going to be teams willing there to take that huge risk. I think Denver, that would be a really good landing spot for him because it would be less of a rebuild. I think that they already have a really strong defense. And when Bridgewater was playing well, they looked dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be a great landing spot for him. He's the kind of player that can really make a difference with any franchise that gets him. If Flores went to the Giants and the Giants made a play for him, they have the draft capital to do it.
Right.
They have some skill positions set. So, there's different places he can go and he's going to turn the team around and make them a very different team. But to me, the big question is just when is he going to play? And is this going to be something that he puts behind him? And is he going to resume his career the way it was?
To me, Deshaun Watson reminds me of one quarterback that went through obviously a troubled career in Michael Vick.
Yeah.
Could sit out multiple years and still come back and be not relevant, but help a team enough because obviously he sat out for so many years and got healthy. So, I mean, that when he does get back to playing, He's healthy.
Right.
You know that what he can bring to the table. I mean, it just comes down to what, like, kind of like you said, Jeremy. When can he play, and when will he play again?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So, guys, we're getting to the end of our stream here. Sean, anything to look forward to in today's games?
Yeah. I mean, can Matt Stafford win back-to-back games? Can the Bills upset the Chiefs at home? Does Tom Brady join Aaron Rodgers and sitting at home for the rest of the playoffs? It comes down to it is who can capitalize on the mistakes and who minimizes the mistakes. That's pretty much what it's come down to with both these teams winning these games right now, is minimizing these mistakes and capitalizing on them when you got them and turning them into points. And that's what it comes down to right now, is winning these games by who can turn turnovers into points, and that's how you win games in the playoffs.
Yeah, Jeremy, your final thoughts and your channel information for the people watching.
Okay, it's just NFL Chaos with Jeremy. Do a lot of watch parties, do a lot of mock drafts. I'm on every Wednesday night at about 9:45 p.m. And I always have special guests, like John Post was my second guest in my second episode ever. So check me out there. And I guess my final thoughts is yeah, I think that these are two games, like we saw yesterday, these are two games that are going to be competitive enough that can easily be decided by special teams or the timely turnover. Like, wouldn't be surprised if both of these games ended up just like we saw yesterday, a final outcome being as a result of one of those kind of things.
Yeah, I agree.
I agree. That's what I want. The first weekend, just because it's wild card weekend, we had 4 of the 6 matchups weren't even fun to watch. But this weekend so far, the 2 games yesterday were great. So hopefully today's games are great as well. Jeremy, I'll be watching you and your brother definitely. I'll be watching Peo during the Rams game. So guys, Sean and I will definitely be back on Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern time. Hopefully with some playoff updates, some off-season news. So have fun watching today's games, and we'll see you in the next episode.
See you guys.
Take care, everyone.